The film starts on a beach on an island. A girl has just woken up from being unconscious. She is Jen, a college student who just had a boat accident while on vacation with her boyfriend and friends. Jen then tries to look around the island. Not far from there, she sees her friend Brad lying weak. Brad is in a worse condition. His stomach is pierced by a coral reef that is still stuck. Jen tries to scream for her boyfriend or anyone around, but there is no response from anyone. Realizing the island is empty, Jen tries to help Brad's wound. However, Brad is bleeding heavily. Jen then tries to find water for Brad. She manages to find a coconut and pierces it with a shard of rock. However, when she returns to Brad has already died. Jen is now alone. In the midst of confusion, she does not know what to do. Jen then walks along the beach of the island, hoping to meet her friends, other people, or a rescue team she can ask for help. However, on the small island, she does not find anyone. She then enters the forest on the island. There she finds some belongings left by people who had come to the island. Among the items, Jen finds a box of matches safely stored in a box. Jen is puzzled because many important items were left behind. When she exits the forest, Jen hears a sound coming from a hollow fallen tree. When she tries to investigate, suddenly a bird comes out from the hole, startling Jen. The day starts to get late. Jen then covers Brad's body with some palm leaves to bury him the next day. When night falls, heavy rain pours on the island. Jen can only shelter under palm leaves, wrapped in a cloth she found in the forest that afternoon. When morning comes, Jen finds many fish stranded on the beach. Without thinking, she collects the fish. However, she finds something strange about a shark also stranded, with its body mangled. Jen then cleans the fish to eat, though she is filled with disgust. After eating, she examines a notebook she found in the forest yesterday. However, when she opens the pages, the notes in the book are blurred because they got wet from the rain last night. She then goes to Brad's body and buries him with makeshift tools. On the second night on the island, Jen makes a makeshift tent for shelter. She also makes a fire to cook fish and to warm her body from the cold beach air. The next day, when Jen was walking along the beach, she was shocked and terrified to find Brad's grave had been forcibly dug up and his body was missing, leaving a lot of blood traces. She felt there was a dangerous creature inhabiting the island. Scared, Jen prepared herself by making a spear from sharpened wood using a stone shard. Jen suspected the mysterious creature that took the body came from the forest. To be cautious that night, Jen slept sitting up, facing the forest, holding her wooden spear. In the middle of the night, when she was sound asleep, she suddenly woke up after hearing a startling noise. She breathed a sigh of relief when she realized the sound was just the crackling of burning wood. The next day, when Jen looked out to the sea, she saw something floating in the distance. Jen swam towards the object, which turned out to be a floating suitcase and a pot. Curious if there were other objects at the bottom of the sea, Jen tried to dive into the water to observe the seabed. That's when she suddenly saw a deep black hole with a swirling vortex that looked very frightening. Jen quickly surfaced and dragged the suitcase to the shore. Upon opening the suitcase, Jen only found shoes and some clothing. That night, after putting on the clothes and shoes she found, Jen opened the box she discovered in the forest. Inside the small compartment of the box, she found some photos. Suddenly, she heard a distant sound that seemed like a small plane approaching. Jen immediately ran to the beach with a flare gun. She fired the flare gun, hoping the pilot would see the flare. But it seemed she was too late. When the flare went up, the plane was already too far. Jen could only watch the red flare fall towards the sea. Suddenly, under the light of the flare, Jen saw a huge creature emerging from the sea. Realizing the danger, Jen quickly ran to her tent, grabbed her wooden spear, and ran into the forest to hide. In the darkness, terrified, Jen crouched among the bushes. Luckily, that night Jen survived as the creature couldn't find her. The next morning, when Jen returned to her tent, she examined the strange photo again. In the photo, there was a woman facing away from the sea, but in the distance, there were two terrifying eyes from the sea. Jen thought for a moment and came up with an idea to leave the island, using the suitcase with added flotation devices. However, the effort was in vain. As night approached, Jen slept while hiding inside the hollow of a fallen tree. Near midnight, Jen woke up because she heard the sound of the mysterious creature approaching her hiding place. Terrified, Jen could only stay still, holding her breath, as the creature tried to roll over the tree trunk where she was hiding. Luckily, after a few moments, the creature left without finding her. The next day, Jen went to the coral rocks to catch small fish. She then used the small fish as bait to attract bigger fish. Jen managed to catch a big fish, which she planned to use as bait to lure the mysterious creature. She was still curious about the creature's form, believing it to be a wild animal, as she hadn't been able to see it clearly up close. When night came, Jen hid in a sand hole, watching the big fish bait she had hung on a tree branch. After waiting a long time, she became drowsy. In the blink of an eye, she fell asleep, and when she woke up, the bait had disappeared without her seeing the mysterious creature. The next day, while sharpening her wooden spear, Jen saw from a distance a human body floating in the waves. Jen quickly approached and found the body belonged to one of her friends, Zach. Zach's body was in a gruesome condition, with everything from the waist down missing. Jen then dragged Zach's body to use as bait to lure the mysterious creature. As night approached, Jen prepared to hide in her hideout. This time, she didn't want to fail. She carefully watched the bait of her friend's body hanging, wondering what kind of creature would come to devour it. Jen was shocked to see a monster emerging from the sea, pulling Zach's body from the tree and dragging it back into the ocean. While Jen was hiding in fear, she suddenly heard a plane passing in the distance. Jen was confused and scared, unsure whether to come out and signal the plane or stay hidden from the monster. When she decided to try to signal the plane, she was startled by the monster's presence nearby. She abandoned the idea and stayed hidden in the hole. Fortunately, the creature once again failed to find her. The next day, knowing the monster's form, Jen built a new hiding place using her tent fabric to make a hammock hung high in the coconut tree to avoid the monster's attacks. However, the effort was in vain. At night, the monster managed to sniff out her presence and caused her to fall from the hammock. Jen had to run quickly towards the beach with the monster chasing her. Fortunately, she survived after successfully stabbing the monster with her wooden spear. That night, Jen spent the night in the heavy rain by hiding in a large tree. The next day, after she finished bathing, from a distance, she saw an inflatable raft floating in the ocean. Jen immediately swam towards the raft. When she got close to the raft, Jen was shocked to find that the people in the inflatable raft were Lucas, her boyfriend, and Mia, her friend. Jen quickly pulled the raft to the shore. When they arrived, she hugged Lucas tightly. Jen was very happy after being alone on the island for several days. Finally, she had friends to talk to. While eating, Jen invited Lucas and Mia to leave the island together immediately. This naturally surprised both of them. Jen then told them about the dangerous monster. However, Lucas and Mia refused to leave the island, reasoning that their friends and Mia's boyfriend might come to the island. Jen then explained that Brad had died. This made Mia very sad. Jen kept trying to persuade Lucas and Mia to leave the island as soon as possible. Despite explaining repeatedly, Lucas and Mia, confused, thought Jen was hallucinating. They both refused to leave the island. Disappointed with Lucas and Mia, Jen decided to steal their inflatable raft while they were off guard. However, she was caught by Mia. Lucas and Mia immediately chased Jen and managed to knock her unconscious after Mia hit Jen's head with a paddle. At night, Jen woke up from her unconsciousness, her hands tied to a coconut tree. Jen pleaded with Mia, who was watching over her, to release her, but Mia refused because she did not trust Jen, remembering that Jen often lied to her in the past. Not long after, Lucas came to them. After surveying the situation, Mia then left them to give them a chance to talk. While Mia was walking along the beach, enjoying the breeze, suddenly, the monster attacked her. Mia's screams, heard by Lucas and Jen, made Lucas immediately go to her. Jen, who knew the monster, panicked, and with all her strength tried to break the rope binding her. Fortunately, the rope, which had started to fray, was broken. Jen quickly ran to the location and urged Lucas to run away from the place, into the forest to hide. The next morning, Lucas was very scared when Jen asked him to come down from their hiding tree. After Jen assured him that she had never seen the monster during the day, he finally agreed to come down. Jen and Lucas quickly prepared to leave the island using the inflatable raft. Once everything was ready, they got on the raft. Unfortunately, as they started to move away from the island, the monster suddenly attacked and managed to drag Jen underwater. Fortunately, Jen was able to injure the monster by stabbing it with a pocket knife, causing it to release its grip on her. However, the monster then turned towards the raft and managed to drag Lucas into its black hole hideout. Meanwhile, Jen, who had managed to escape back to the island, was determined to fight the monster. She immediately rekindled the fire on the beach before preparing for the battle. Jen wrote a message to anyone who might visit the island, explaining her presence there and the dangerous monster. She then prepared weapons to fight the monster, making as many weapons as possible from wood and bones she dug up from the graves. Jen also set up fire traps at the battle site. As night fell, the monster came searching for her. When the monster was in the trap, Jen quickly lit the fire trap. The fire surrounded the panicking monster. Jen tried to attack the monster randomly, but the monster, much larger than Jen, fought back, leading to a deadly struggle. Jen fought the monster with all her might, stabbing and slashing it with wood and bone. After an exhausting battle, Jen finally managed to win, and the monster died at her hands. Jen let the forest on the island burn so that the rescue team could find her, and the film ended. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe, because by subscribing you have supported me to make better videos. See you in the next video.